Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's the UK Fuel Ninja, and it is stopped raining. It was a couple of days of really heavy rain, and I am out and about today, going to do some site location. So basically, when you're trying to get into guerrilla growing, you're going to need somewhere to grow your plants. So what I've done is I've been on to Google Earth. I've had a look at some locations and they look reasonably good. Unfortunately, around where I live, there's not a lot of rivers and streams and stuff like that, so obviously making sites in areas where they are is quite difficult. So I'll have to carry water, so I have to take into consideration how far it is into wherever I'm going, and what kind of terrain I'm going to be crossing, because I'm going to have to go through that carrying anywhere between 20 to 60 litres of water, so anywhere between 20 kg and 60 kg. Obviously I have to also factor in carrying in compost, carrying in pots, and carrying in the plants as well. And this will have to be done in the night time, because if you try and do this stuff in the daytime, you massively increase the risk of getting caught. So so we're out and about. We're all dressed up in our ninja clothes, and by that I mean got my camo on, got my boots on, they're all polished up, got my stick, and I got my tools. I'll show you my tools in a little bit. So proper attire. Now, you could just wear your normal clothes and go and do this stuff, but again, we're talking about trying to be as discreet as possible, leading people to the least amount of suspicion of what we're up to. So we're out in the countryside, we're out in areas where it wouldn't be uncommon to see someone rambling about, so we're going to dress like a rambler, and we're going to use that as an excuse if we get caught in anyone's land or anything like that. We just say we're bird watching, or we're out and about doing some survival or whatever. So, you don't want to go out into this without having some forethought as to what you may have to say to people if you get caught. This is one of the finer points of guerrilla growing, is that you can utterly deny any knowledge of the plants or anything, and you can just say, I stumbled across them, I was out walking, and I was watching birds or whatever. Unlike if you were to grow in your house, where obviously if the police caught you, they'd be like, well, it's your house, mate, and these are your plants, so you have that kind of deniability. However, there are some parts of that, like for example, if you were carrying a crap load of water down to that site and you were to get caught, you might have a little bit more of a difficulty explaining why it is that you have a load of water going towards plants that look like they need a drink. Also the same as if you're carrying nutrients. So you've got nutrients and you've got water in your bag and you're going onto a grow site. Yeah, it's not going to work out so well for you. You're not really going to have much excuse. So anyway, that being said, Google Earth. Also, if you have a bit of money and you like a bit of walking, you could buy yourself an Ordnance Survey map. Because what an Ordnance Survey map will do is tell you exactly where footpaths are, it'll tell you where scrubland is, it'll tell you the contours of the land, so you know whether or not that area is going to be a steep hill, going to be a shallow like gully type, dell type thing. So you have to take these things into consideration for water, how damp the ground is going to be. You're also looking at how steep it's going to be, because you're going to have to climb up and down it. And all these things play a part into choosing a site. So anyway, let's go for a little bit of walk, see if this site is any good. So also the other thing that you have to consider as well is if you're going to grow out in the countryside, miles and miles and miles away from anything, then obviously you're going to have to get some form of transport to and from it. So if you don't have any transport to and from, that's going to be quite difficult for you. So you've got your transport, you know where you're going, where you're going to park your car, or where you're going to park whatever it is that you're going to be using as transport. Now, I can already see straight away from what I'm walking along that there's a gate there, and this is a long path, and these are reasonably fresh tracks. So I know full well that a farmer's coming down here, and is coming down here fairly regularly. So I can't really grow around in this area, so we're going to have a little look, see where this path leads to, and then go from there. But inside here, just over this fence, it's quite a nice area. It's getting a lot of sun. I mean, I know you can't really see it now, but when you're talking about cutting back trees and stuff like that, you're going to be able to expose an area quite nicely. However, I couldn't see this path on Google Earth, and I didn't have an ordnance survey map for this area, so I didn't know it was here. But we'll carry on up it, see what we can find. Now the key thing about identifying an area to actually grow in is seasonally, what does the site look like? So is the site going to be completely covered up? Is it going to fade away as it gets to autumn and reveal your plants? Is the ground going to be really wet? Is it going to get enough sun once all the foliage grows up? And the only way you can truly identify this kind of stuff is by actually coming out and looking at the site. So you'd have to come out here at different times of the year to see, okay, right, so in the winter this looked really great, it's getting loads and loads of sun, looked perfect. However, I've come down here in the spring and there's 20-foot stinging nettles everywhere, so that's not going to really work out so well. Okay, or alternatively, all the foliage grows up. The foliage grows everywhere, and you now can't get in and out. Sorry, not that you can't get in and out. You now don't get any sun without doing some major tree surgery. Okay. So we're now up on top of a field. So also what I can see here is down in there is just really, really steep. So if I cut everything out of there, it's just going to be too steep for me to put any plants in without doing major excavation work. Now what we might find is if we go through in here, we might find something inside this woodland. The only problem with growing in woodland, see, when you're climbing through brambles, you got to think, is someone else going to want to really climb through all these brambles? Okay. So anyway, the one thing about growing in woodland and stuff like that is that the ground is really damp. It's very soft and very damp, and it doesn't really get dry. Now, slugs and snails, they live in the ground, they live in the dirt, kind of a bit like worms. So if the ground is really damp, they can live there. So you need a site which is as dry as possible, and you can alleviate all the slug problems by having dry land or dry ground to grow on. So anyway, that's one of the things that you have to look at as to where it is that you're actually going to grow. So I've been through this. I can see through this area here that it's the height of summer. I know it's just rained, but the ground is really, really damp. So I'm not going to put any plants in this area, purely off the basis that I know it's not going to get dry enough in there to stop the slugs. So if I put any plants in there, basically the slugs will just tear them all up, and there's not a lot I can do about it. It also would involve excessive kind of like tree cutting, and it's just not damaging nature. Is obviously not what you want to do. You want to try and minimise as much damage to nature as you can get. So this site is a bust, and this is the thing. So you've identified it on Google Earth. You know, you're looking at it going, wow man, that looks brilliant. It's like an amazing place. I'll definitely go and grow there. And then when you come down, you actually identify a whole heap of problems with it. And there's not a lot that you can really do about that, because you have to be out in the field to actually find these things out. So, kind of a bit annoying. I was hoping that I was going to find another good grow site. The other thing as well is that there is no such thing as perfect grow site. You're never going to find somewhere which is utterly perfect. It may have really good traits, but you also find that there's faults with it. That maybe you haven't got water close by, maybe it's a bit further in than you would like, maybe it's a little bit more difficult to get to in the night than you'd hoped it would be in the daytime when you were looking at it. But yeah, it's all a game of identifying, and it takes a lot of time. And the gardens that I've got, they took me probably about 2 months to find, of going around various different sites here, there and everywhere just to find these ones. And these ones aren't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, one of my gardens got utterly annihilated by slugs, and that's how I found out that slugs live in the ground, and that you shouldn't grow in areas where the ground is really wet, because if the ground is really wet, they can just come up and eat all your plants. So yeah, it's trial and error. I was kind of a little bit gutted. I thought this was going to be perfect here, but you never know until you come out and have a look for yourself. So we'll carry on. There is some other places as well. They're a little bit of a walk away, and this is probably going to be a fairly longish video. Lots of people down here drinking. Yeah, so this is like kind of off the beaten track. Not a lot of people really come down here. Now, if I had to give you an example of like the perfect place to grow, it would be right here. It would be right here, because right here you can see the lushness of the grass as it's under the shade where the soil is moist, and as it gets further out into the field it gets drier and drier and drier, so the slugs that are going to be out there are basically going to be non-existent. They're not really going to travel across that dry land when they can travel all the way through here, so your plants will be protected. It's got good access in and out. However, it's a field, and your plants are going to be so obvious that everyone's going to see them, and they're going to get shredded up, or they're going to get pulled up by the police, or they're going to get caught with them. So until it's legal, we won't be allowed to use places like this, which are just quite literally the best. So yeah, hopefully one day it will be legal, be able to buy myself a field and stick my Landrace in it that I'm going to start developing next year. So I'll carry on down. If you can see up there, it's all along the edge of this woodland, or at the edge of the woodland for the field. That might be quite good. There might be some spaces up there, because what you're also factoring in is the sunlight. So that's why I use an app called Sun Surveyor, because on Sun Surveyor I can tell where the sun is throughout the day, and I know how much sunlight based on the rotation of the sun, or whatever, it's the arc of the sun, as to how much how much light that site is going to get. So I know that the gardens that I've got at the moment, they get anywhere between 9 and 13 hours of sun in the daytime, in the middle of summer, and obviously they'll decrease. The other thing I wanted to mention about that is, I know in the UK it's quite cloudy most of the time. Generally speaking, it's raining, and then you get the few decent days of weather where it's really, really sunny and really, really bright. The thing about the sun and plants is that the plants are after the UV that the sun gives off, and the UV penetrates through clouds, so you can get burnt quite badly when it's really, really hot. Let's say a really hot day, but it's overcast, because the UV is just going to penetrate straight through those clouds, and that's what the plants are using to grow. So as long as your site clearly gets open daylight for at least, I would say, a minimum of 9 hours, preferably 16 hours if you can get it, then basically, even when it's cloudy, like it is today, like it's overcast and cloudy, all of these plants in here are all still getting the UV rays onto them. So it's just about having that open area where the sun can really get onto the plants. So anyway, this is quite a long track, quite far down. Might find a little location. I mean, preferably I would like, I was kind of hoping that where we just were back there, up in that bit of woods, that path or that track wasn't there, because that's what looked on the site on Google Earth to be the best place to grow. But it is what it is. So anyway, stuff like this is pretty steep up there, but up there along that tree line, it's probably going to be quite nice, and it's probably going to get a lot of sun up there, and no one's going to see it because of those trees up there. But the other issue is that just above there, as you can see up there, just above there is also the field. So the farmer could basically go along and the farmer could, in essence, see them as he's mowing the fields or planting or whatever the hell he's doing. So yeah, consideration, is it worth the risk to move all of that stuff to end up with nothing at the end of the day? Hand's getting a bit numb from holding this crappy bootleg camera. So anyway, yes, fun and games. Everything seems to be going alright with the plants. I'm pretty certain that they had a good drink, because it was a properly torrential downpour over the last few days. So yeah, I think they'll be alright for a little bit. I need to go and give them some feed probably in the next 4 days or whatever, and then it's not really a lot I can do now, but start preparing the sites for next year, building up the walls, building up the sheltering of it, so it makes it harder for people to see it's there or know it's there. But I'm quite happy with these gardens. They took a long time to find. I don't think anyone will find them, but it's not, I can't make that call really. In the grand scheme of things, it's not within my powers to stop someone from finding them. So yeah. But what I'm gonna do, I think, is I'm gonna make some raised beds. So rather than, I'm gonna continue to use the pots that I've got, because they were quite expensive. They were like £5.20 each from One Stop Grow Shop, and I've got 18 of them. So yeah, it's quite a bit of money, but it's an investment. If anything goes wrong in the world, I can always grow food in them. so they're not utterly useless. But I'm going to make some raised beds up in one of my sites, or maybe both of the sites, and I'm going to plant the plants into the raised beds. I've seen this been done a lot of times from a lot of different growers, and I'm going to dedicate one garden specifically to making a landrace, and that landrace I'm going to do with a strain called Mazar-I-Sharif. I've talked about Mazar-I-Sharif before. It comes from the borders of Afghanistan and India, right up in the mountains, and it's where you get all your kushes from, and it's where you get chronics and all the rest of these plants from. It's highly potent. If you don't know what landraces are, go and have a look up. I'll basically explain it. It's like a stinging nettle, and a stinging nettle just grows naturally, and that's a stinging nettle would be landrace, because it's just going to grow on its own. It's going to seed up. Those seeds are going to fall down, and they're going to grow into the plant, and it's going to turn into a big old bush, or a big old expanse of stinging nettles, but in this case weed. So it just takes generations to do it, and the properties of Mazar-I-Sharif, when I was having a look at the time zones and all the rest of it that goes on over there, basically in Mazar, like right now, they're getting 14 hours of daylight, and that's in the height of summer for them. So 14 hours of daylight, and that's consistent pretty much throughout the year. There's about a 1 hour difference throughout the year, so it's a lot less sunlight than what they're getting here. Their general day temperature is roughly around the same as ours, anywhere between 25 and 36 degrees. And if you look at the region itself, you'll find that a lot of the plants are very similar to the plants that we get here. There's a lot of misconfusion about the world, just to say the least. Like, for example, you think Afghanistan is a giant desert. Well, only parts of Afghanistan is a desert, and you should ask yourself the question: why do you sing a song called "The Lion Sleeps in the Jungle Tonight" when all you ever see of things of lions is them out in the savannah, which is like deserty, kind of rough wilderness? Yet you're singing a song that the lion sleeps in the jungle. That's because there are lots of jungles, and there's lots of places of the earth that are quite literally been melted away from people's minds. But anyway, so Mazar in Afghanistan, it's quite similar to this country in a lot of respects. So anyway, we're up here at the next one that we're going to have a little look at. We are in a farmer's field, unfortunately. There's not a lot getting away with that in the UK. Farmer's fields are pretty much everywhere. And yeah, going to have a little look. So I was down here a little while ago, and I'm thinking that in here, and dotted along and around in here might be quite good. The only downside to it is having to obviously climb over a giant fence, and there's quite a big gully just down in there where all the water gets washed up the road. Problem being is that it's quite close to the edge of this field, and the closer that it is to the edge of the field, the more likely it is that the farmer might smell it when he's cropping all of this corn. It's kind of a bit off topic, but I swear that this corn or wheat is a hell of a lot smaller than it used to be. This is about, I don't know, 1.5 feet It's about 1.5 feet, and yeah, I swear corn came up to about 6 foot. Like this is some kind of like genetically modified corn or something to make it grow so small. Yeah, it's coming up to harvest. Saw the grain there. Good getting out in nature, having a walk around, understanding plants. Not just about growing this stuff, but also understanding nature and understanding what's going on in the world. Always good to carry a stick. Nothing better than a stick to push out brambles and stinging nettles and allow you to clear a good path from the way that you're going. Yeah, I was going to continue up this path, but you know what? Like I was saying to you, it's all about the journey that you're going to have to make from your transport to the site. And if you're doing it on your own like I am, it's a lot of work, and you've got to do this stuff at night if you don't want to basically attract attention to your site. I know that a lot of the videos are done in the daytime, but realistically the daytime is the time where you're most likely to get caught, you're most likely to be seen, which will lead people to go and investigate why you're up in that area. So yeah, unfortunately we didn't find a site, which is not uncommon or unheard of. Sites or good sites are fairly difficult to find. Well, put it this way, I could grow right where I am right now. I could chuck a plant in there, I could chuck a plant in there, I could throw some plants along up there, I could put some plants just in this hedgerow here, I could put plants along here, over into all of that patch up there, I could put plants all the way around that field, just basically throw them out everywhere. The problem with that is that the chances of your plants getting ripped up and found is going to greatly increase, and it's going to involve you putting out a mass amount of plants, and it's going to be difficult to manage that many plants without just basically leaving them to just grow. The kind of money that you would spend compared to the losses that you'd make is going to be quite high. You might end up, if you're lucky, if you put out 50 plants to get maybe 10 back, if you're lucky, because people walk around, they'll see them, they'll smell them, they'll go, oh look at this, and they'll come and pick it and pull it apart, and cows and rabbits and all that fun time business, and you just end up losing more money and time than you do actually in reaping any benefit for what you've sowed. So actually finding a site is obviously a lot better, because you can maintain the plants. Stone in my shoe. You can maintain the plants, you can grow them bigger, you can hide them, whatever. But they're harder to find. Fun times, boots. So come down here, have a bit of a look at this. This is a long video, probably bored of listening to me talk, but it's just showing you what it takes in order to try and find a grow site. This one's a bust. There's nothing here in this general area as well. I'm not really going to find much else, I don't think. Everything around here is like massive giant hills, and realistically is so much of an effort. I know, like when you see on the videos, if you're not growing yourself, you're basically seeing plants in pots or plants in the ground, and they're just growing there like nothing happened. But in order for those plants to get there, there was a hell of a lot of work that was involved just to get those plants there. And if you're moving lots of soil, because obviously the plants require soil that really, for my area anyway, really isn't the best properties of soil. Around where I live is lots of clay, there's lots of flint. It's not particularly brilliant soil. It involves a lot of work done to it in order to get it to drain. So not loose, well drained soil. I mean, you can grow in it, but yeah, it's a lot of work to prepare that soil, and a lot of money as well in clay busting materials and whatever. So yeah, we have to use compost. Have to bring compost up with us. Yeah, one day it'd be nice to see the whole field like this and just come down here and look at it and be like, yeah man, that's the landrace I made, and look at it, it's just growing wild like stinging nettles, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it from growing, because yeah, the creator made it, man, and it's not going to let his creation be destroyed. So yeah, anyway, I'll leave it there, guys. There's not much more I can really say to you. I hope it's been informative, possibly a little bit boring, but yeah, site identification. You want to start probably like now, when the flowers have all started to die, the plants are starting to recede back, to see where sites can be, and then you want to come down in the winter time, have a look again in the winter, see how exposed it is, because you have to remember, by the time that these plants are flowering and are ready, most of all of this is going to have died back, or is going to be going brown and whatever and falling down. So you need to see, is my plant, which is possibly still going to be bright green, going to really stick out like a sore thumb? And then have a look in the spring, see what it looks like in the spring, to see how difficult is it going to get in and out, how bad is the foliage and all the rest of it. And then obviously by that time you're starting out looking to be prepared to grow. Realistically, once you have identified a site that you think is going to be good, you want to go down in the winter time, or coming up to say like February-ish time, February, March, and you want to be digging out holes, or getting soil down there, because also it's cheaper in the garden centres to buy compost and all that stuff out of season than it is to buy it in season, and the difference can be anywhere between £2.50 and £1, and the kind of volumes that you need it all adds up. So yeah, hope this was informative. Like and subscribe if you really want